Right. So, after I made this material a couple days ago for this project that I'm working on, I decided I wasn't happy with the quality of the foam. Up until now, I've been using the noises that come with substance, and just to save time, energy, etc. And I decided that it's time to make my own bubble effects. And I thought that that would also be a cool thing to show in a tutorial. However, the effects node is kind of I think it requires before we actually go in to build the bubble effects, which I'm actually not 100% finished with. I'm pretty happy with what I've got so far, so I'm hoping to finish it later on today. But I thought I would take a break and do a quick video on um, sort of the effects node basics, and that's this guy right here, the effects map. Um, it's an incredibly powerful thing, and it it, it runs on randomization. It is, in a nutshell, how to describe it. What you're going to do, what we're going to do is we're going to create what's called Markov chains, and if you want the mathematical description of it in like super detail, Google it, because I'm not a theoretical mathematician. In a nutshell, uh, it's a chain that takes a randomized thing and then it randomizes it again and then it randomizes it again and then it randomizes it again. And what you're doing, and it's great for making noises, essentially. I mean, I suppose you could do other things with it. Um, but we're going to make a noise. Now, like any other node, it can be either color or grayscale. So we're going to be making a mask. So I'm going to switch this to grayscale. Now, let's just quickly switch it back to color. Uh, to actually edit this thing, you right click and then you go to edit effects map. And this is what you're going to get. Now, we are going to run back and switch it to color, but right here, for the moment, if you click on this quadrant, right now it's set to color. If we go back out to the graph and switch this to grayscale, once we go back into our FX map, this will be geared for black and white. So I just, so we're going to use it this way. Now, unlike other things, you have a very limited menu here as far as what you can add as a node. There are three basic building blocks to making an FX map: quadrant, switch, and iterate. Quadrant is the one you're going to use the most, and it's kind of the basic engine that will drive it. And what a quadrant does is pretty descriptive in the title. It takes the image that you feed it and it turns it into quadrants. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This first node is the root node, and you're going to build the chain down. Your actual image information will always be found at the bottom row of the tree. It's always at the end of the tree. Right now, just for illustration purposes, we are going to put images, patterns, into other places. Like for now, let's put this Gaussian in here. Now, this is the first node. Although you can't see it, it has in fact done the math to quadrant this out. And we know this because if we add a node, another quadrant node, those instructions will be passed through to here. And that's actually a really good way of thinking of it. All the quadrants that you put in front of whatever your result is are actually a set of instructions for how to split up that image. We're not even talking about randomizing right now. We're just talking about how that information is passed through. So I'm going to remove the pattern from this first node because it really shouldn't be there. This is just a set of instructions. And I'm going to put my pattern in whatever the last element of that tree is. So we're going to put that Gaussian thing in here. Now, here we go. It's taken that Gaussian dot, and the instructions in here have told it you take it and you put one of those in the center of each, split it into four, split it into a quadrant, boom, boom, and then into the center of each quadrant, put a dot. Essentially, what you're doing it is you're tiling it out in a very, very specific way. We can do this again. Add a node. You can also, by the way, if you hit your space bar, it'll also give you a list. Since I tend not to do it in things like pixel processors because it just gives you this giant menu, but you can also just put in like, you know, a letter and you can start typing and you can do it like that too. So, you know, whatever floats your boat. So we can put another quadrant in here. And again, where instead of having this being the result, we're now going to make it be merely instructional. So it's now feeding those instructions to the next node down the chain. And now you've done that again. So it's repeated the process, and you can keep going down and down and down. And that is what a quadrant node does. Now, you can get picky and choosy. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can start mixing and matching. So you can decide, well, in this one, I want it to go and do this. And then I can put in another quadrant node and have these guys do other things. For example, where is our... Now, this is, again, it's the last one in the chain. Now, it skipped a step. So this pyramid has only been quartered the one time, and this guy has been quartered twice. So if we decide to put another quadrant node in here, and hook this up and pass this down to the next one, it's going to do that for us. Now again, I can get picky and choosy here. And down and down and down it goes. So, you know, although this is incredibly simple, it does give you a great deal of variety, even without using the other, well, even without using the switch. We'll get to the other one in a minute. This is already, you can see already how powerful this is. And then you got to remember that each one of these quadrant nodes, you can start doing things to it. Now, right now, we've only got one iteration. We're going to get to the iterate node in a minute, which is going to, and we haven't randomized anything. So the power comes in when we start to, because each one of these parameters, just like all the other parameters we've ever dealt with, can actually have a function attached to it. So you can start animating things, you can start randomizing things, you can start doing all kinds of stuff to things. And as you're creating these random events and random functions, you're then sort of manipulating where those things happen using the quadrants. Now, before we go on to the next thing, which will be the switch node, you can also, I want to sort of talk quickly about, just how powerful this is with the ability to put in your own, where are we? To put in your own images. I've got a cold, I've got a head cold, so you can go here, input image. Yeah, my brain's not 100% today. Right now we don't have an input image, but as luck would have it, we have some bitmaps out here. Let's take a quick look at the node itself. This top one is the background. So if I put something in here, it's going to appear just like as just one big thing. If I want to have these images manipulated by the FX map, I put them in the image input or input image. And as I do, it's going to keep adding nodes, like little connectors for me. So let's do that, and then let's go back to our effects map. Now, you notice those ones came in here because I had already set this to input image. This one is still using the Gaussian spot. So if we want, now again, it's doing ones, but I want it to do twos. That's no good. So what I do then is I come down here, and once I have an input image, I can actually, now I've got that drop down list and I can start switching them out. And that's, and then again, you can turn them, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Right. I've got a sore throat right now, so I'm going to pause, I'm going to go gargle with some salt water, and I'll be back. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm losing my voice a little bit. Okay. Let's get back into our effects map, and we're going to take a look at the next node, which is switch. This it is exactly what it sounds like. It is a switch. It's going to take an input. Oh, wait a minute. How do we do this? I want to. This guy and this guy. Actually, we're going to put all four of them into. And then we are going to make two switches. Okay. It's okay. We have this side, the left side. It's currently, so what's on this one, which is input image 0, which is our number 1. And then what's on our right side is our input image 2, which is number 3. So like, we could start messing around with that. Okay, that's all a switch does. Now, what's built into it is just this left right, so it doesn't inherently have a way of sort of blending them, but that's really easy to do by creating an empty. We're going to do this when we actually build the material, but you can create a function that just it just picks the middle between the two, so you end up with essentially a 50% split between the two. I'm not going to get into that right now because I just want to talk about the nodes themselves, but trust me, it's really easy. And then finally, the iterate node. And This is what it is. I mean, this will, in this node tells you how many iterations you want to pass through all of this that you've created here. There are two nodes at the bottom here. This first one, just like the background image here, will pass through a single, it'll pass through like a single thing. It's not going to iterate. It's just going to do the one. So you want to use the second one. And then you want to set this. Now right click and set this as the root. You'll notice, okay, let's bring this down to 0. Now we had it before as 1. Now you'll notice that it's just this one, that's the color, it's kind of the, but now as we add iterations, you can see we're basically laying semi-transparent stuff on top of each other. They are in exactly the same spot, so it looks like it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. But in fact, what you're doing is you're increasing iterations. And I think I'm going to do one more thing before I end this video, just to show you kind of where this is leading. So I think we're on this one here. If we put in, let's do offset. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to create an empty function. And then we're going to go in and edit the function. So I want a constant float. And then I want a random. And we're going to set this to 1. And I'm going to hook this up. Oh, this wants a float too. Okay. So we're gonna have to do this twice. Right. Let's go back to here. I just want to kind of go through what I'm doing here. Pattern offset needs an X and a Y value. So the result here has to be a float too. So I need 2 random numbers instead of 1. They're both going to be random between 1 and 0. So what this random function does, whatever this is what you're setting as, you could set this higher, but it's going to give you a random number between 0 and whatever this number is. So we need to turn this into a vector float too. So we're going to take these 2 results, and we're going to turn it into a float2 value, and then we're going to right click and set this as our output node. And ta-da! All of a sudden, it's randomized. So essentially what's happening here, and now as we move these iterations up, we get more and more stuff. So just to quickly run through it, what's happening here, okay, you've got you're giving it instructions. Okay, I want 3. I have 3 things that I want to run through this tree and pop out as a result here. So it's going to go 1, and then it's going to quadrant it out the way we told it. It's going to switch depending on what we told the switch to do. It's going to do whatever it tells it here, and it's going to spit it out. Then it's going to go back and it's going to go do it again. And it's going to go back and do it again, however many times you put whatever number you put in here. And that's it. And with it's like one of those games, it's like takes a minute to figure out and it takes a lifetime to master, because with these basic things that we just looked at now, it took us 20 minutes. You can create pretty much any noise imaginable. And it's a lot of fun. It's crazy, and it's fun. I love working with these things. But for now, I'm going to leave it alone. My voice is kind of dropping out on me. in the next couple of days, hopefully I'll finish with that other thing, and then we'll actually go ahead and use what we've seen here to actually build that bubble noise. And I hope this has been helpful.